Welcome to Stop Being Busy and Start Being Productive, an extremely important and timely topic that we're going to hear all about how to start taking more control of our time. Our speaker today is Dr. Jason Martin. He is the Associate Dean of the James E. Walker Library at Middle Tennessee State University. He oversees library assessment, and his research interests include organizational culture and leadership. Jason has been active in ULS since 2010 and is currently the past chair of ULS and the current chair of the ULS Professional Development Committee. Jason has been reading about personal development, in particular ways to become better organized and more productive, for as long as he can remember. In between assessment, research, and self-improvement projects, he's working on having the best lawn in the neighborhood. So without any further ado, take it away, Dr. Martin.
All right, well, thank you very much, Chris. I'm going to start a video here. Hopefully you can see the video. If not, you're really not missing out on anything by not being able to look at me. But so thank you all for joining me today for this. And I wanted to talk about how we can be more productive, and specifically how we can make the time and create the time to work on those projects, those really big projects that are very important and meaningful for us. And I started thinking about this a while ago. You know, I have all these great project lists, and I make all these really great to-do lists for the weekend. And then Sunday night would come around, and I would, can you see the PowerPoint? Somebody said there, can you see the PowerPoint? I just want to make sure. No, we can't see the PowerPoint. Email to you around. How do I share the PowerPoint? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Chris. If individuals, you may need to, I'm going to pause the recording for a minute. Hold on.
So I make I have these project lists, and I make these to-do lists for the weekend, and then come around Sunday night, I wouldn't feel very good. And I started to realize that what I was doing is I was doing things that needed to be done, you know, cleaning the bathroom and doing the laundry and all that, but I wasn't making the time to work on the things that really meant a lot to me, in that I wanted to do that were just meaningful for me and important projects for me, things like writing or taking a hike or working in the garden. And my philosophy at the time was, well, if I do all of the little stuff and get rid of the little stuff, get that out of the way first, then I could go and work on the big things. But what was happening was the little things never seemed to end. And once I did get around to the big things, I was just so tired from doing all the little stuff that I just didn't have the energy to go in and do what I wanted to do. So I changed my thinking on all of this, and instead of scheduling all this little stuff, I just kind of put that to the side and said, really what I want to do is I want to make time and schedule these big important things that are meaningful for me, that give me joy and benefit. And all of a sudden my weekends improved. Imagine that. And so I started taking this to my work philosophy as well, and saying, I'm going to take the time to make the time for those big meaningful projects and do those things first, and work on the other things after I get done with that. And that's really worked out well for me. So I wanted to share this with y'all, and hopefully you'll pick up something that's useful to you and that will help you in your work and in your personal life as well. What I'm going to talk about today, you don't have to do all of this stuff. Just take whatever you might find useful and just leave the rest behind. When you take stuff and adapt it to what is going to work best for you, there's no set in stone way, no right way to do it. And there will be, at the end, I'm going to send out a link for a handout, online handout, so it's got a link to all this information, as well as some of the resources that I talked about, and for the slides as well. So for those of you who can't see the slides, if you look up at the top right-hand corner, there's a drop-down arrow. There should be a way to pull that panel up to see the slides that is there. I think the panel is just hidden on your layout. You might have to go in and select that. Okay.
Jason, there's also a link on mine that says Quick Start Event Info and then Stop Being Busy. And if you click on the Stop Being Busy, then that shows the slides. Okay, all right. That could be because you're a panelist, Chris. So the attendees don't see that. But okay, so what we're going to talk about today, an overview here, we're going to talk about habits and routines and how this can help us in our workday and how it can help us be more productive. We're going to talk about to-do lists and project lists, which are some of my favorite things to talk about and do. I'm not a big fan of the Big Bang Theory, but there's a scene where Sheldon says, you know, if I made a list of all the things that I enjoy doing, making lists would be at the top of the list. It's kind of like me. We'll also talk about managing distractions, especially digital distractions. And then finally, we'll talk about being a pro and what it means to show up and do work. Okay? So the first thing we want to talk about is habits. And we're going to start off with a poll, and Chris, if you can send the poll link out for the one about habits. And so in your chat box will show up as you see a link there asking you how much of your daily actions are controlled by habits. So if you can click on that link, take a few seconds and answer the poll and let us know what you think, how much of your daily actions are. And just you can click on the link and then just select it from the poll that's there. All right, y'all want to click on the poll results here. Okay. Just want to refresh this real quick. So you can see the screen, the results here. So it looks like, so 28, there's 83 so far. So 28 of you have said about 50%. 29 of you have said about 75%. 14 said almost all. Stop sharing this. And what research has shown is that about 40 to 60% of our daily actions are actually controlled by habits. So these can be things that we do that we don't think a lot about. So something like tying your shoes. If I asked you if you ask me, how do you tie a pair of shoes, I kind of stare at you. Now I'm from Florida and I live in Tennessee. Those aren't big shoe wearing places. But, you know, it's just something you've done for so long that you don't really think about it anymore. Other things, you think about your daily commute and how you kind of go on autopilot, driving back and forth from work to home or home to the store. Or things just like things, external stimuli. Somebody says something to you and you just have an automatic reaction. Those are the kind of habits that control us and that we don't really think about. And these are things that we just do. Okay, so why are we talking about habits? Well, we can actually use these habits to be more productive. So we only have so much energy to use in a day. And each time we make a decision whether or not to do something, that uses energy. And we deplete our store of energy over the day by making decisions. And what happens is once we have a low level of energy, we start to make bad decisions. So if you think about it, you had a long week, you come home on Friday, you're hungry, and you want to make something to eat. And you're trying to lose some weight, you're trying to be more healthy. So you say, well, I should really eat some like beans and some quinoa and some roasted vegetables and steamed tofu. It's going to be delicious, so healthy.
But instead, what you do is you order pizza, or you go to the drive-through, and then you finish it with some ice cream or something. And that's because your energy levels are low, and you don't have the ability to make the right kinds of decisions. When we start to talk about willpower, what we're really talking about is just the energy that your body has and your brain has to make good decisions. So instead of using this willpower, this grind, I'm going to force myself to do the right thing and to do this sort of stuff that I need to do, we can actually, a better way to go about our day is through habits. And habits, are composed of little things that we do every day. They're how we spend our time. They also reflect our character and our personality. And if we can fill our day with good habits, then we can do better things, we can be more productive and be healthier, all that sort of stuff. And habits lead us to do work. Instead of forcing ourselves to do something, we can get in the habit of doing something, and that's just less energy that we use, and we can have to actually work on the project. So instead of forcing ourselves to start the task, we condition our minds through habit to know that at a certain time or after a specific reminder, we will start working on that project. That way, we don't have to negotiate with our brain, and we don't have to kind of deplete that willpower and that energy. We do the work because we've been conditioned through habit to do the work. Habits can also put us in the right mindset to accomplish something and to do work. Artists of all kinds, whether it's painters, sculptors, or writers, they have a specific place that they go to do work, and that's the only place that they go to do that. So writers often have a spot where they go to write, because that's something that's a habit that gets their mind and the mood to know, all right, well, now we're going to write. This is the only thing that we do here, so this is what we're going to do now. And you'll see that also with performers. Any of you like sports, you'll see basketball players go through this whole crazy thing before taking a free throw, or the things that batters do before getting into the batter's box in a baseball game. All of those help to put your mind in the right mindset to go about and do what you're going to do and accomplish a task. So James Clear has written and presented and researched a lot on habits. And he talks about habits are composed of the 3 R's. So it's reminder, response, and reward. And the reminder is the trigger that alerts the brain it's time to do something. The response is the habit itself, and the reward is the positive feeling or consequence that we get from engaging in that activity. So for example, in the morning we finish our second cup of coffee and we go for a run. The second cup of coffee is that trigger to remind ourselves, well, now it's time for us to go to a run. It puts our mind into a different category, a different mindset to go out and do the run. And the reward that we get is the health benefits or the runner's high or whatever it is from going out and from running. Okay. So think about this. When we're talking about doing meaningful work and doing those big projects that we sometimes have trouble finding the time to do or aren't scheduling properly, think about what kind of habits can help you perform that work and do that work. So think about what it is that you want to do. So maybe you want to write a book, and you want to develop a habit of writing every day. All right, so that's the habit that you want to develop. So think of ways then that you can tie that on to something that you already do every day as a reminder to now sit down and start to write. That could be, again, your second cup of coffee. That could be at a certain time. You can actually create the reminders yourself by setting calendar reminders that pop up, alarms, it's 10 a.m., now it's time to write for an hour. And we have all of these mental obstacles. Our brain is this very analytical thing and always wants to negotiate with us. And it says, well, just give me 5 more minutes on Twitter, 10 more minutes on Facebook, whatever. We'll make it up at the end. We'll do 5 more minutes on this or that. It never really works out. So don't do that. Don't negotiate with your brain. Find ways you can set up habits throughout your day so that you can overcome these mental obstacles, and you can start working on a project through these reminders and triggers that you have set up throughout your day. Another suggestion from James Clear is to identify with your habit. So if an example we used earlier to go running in the morning, another way you can say is you just identify with being a runner. I am the type of person who goes running every morning. I am a runner. And you start to think like a runner. You start to make decisions that a runner would make. And that helps to build that character and build that habit and build that mindset. I'm going to go running in the morning after my second cup of coffee. Yeah, I don't know why there's a tiny baby on his right butt. Now, I'm not saying that all you have to do is simply proclaim yourself to be a great violinist and you're going to be first chair at the New York Philharmonic. But it's just a way to get you into that mindset and a way to, you have to do the work, but that helps you do the work. You know, I mean, there's that old saying, the person who says they can and the person who says they can't are both correct. And, you know, when you think about the narrative that runs through your head and the things that we tell ourselves, and if you're struggling to develop a particular skill or a particular habit, think about what you tell yourself. Often we say, well, I'm just not the kind of person who does that. Well, just change that narrative in your head and say, you know, I am the kind of person who does this. I can become the kind of person who writes every day, who goes running every day. And that helps to develop those habits and develop those good kind of skills and helps to be more productive on the work that you want to do. Now, in order to be successful, we have to create good habits, but we also have to get rid of the bad habits. And often we want to just stop doing a bad habit, but that's really hard because a bad habit is in our life for a reason. There's a reason why we gorge on candy or why we smoke or why we, you know, bite our nails or whatever. And so the trick is, instead of getting rid of the habit, is just to replace the bad habit with a good habit. And so the key to this is really understanding what it is that causes you to engage in this habit and why you do that. And then you can work on replacing that bad habit with a good habit, and so therefore you get a better reward from this. So as an example, I play with my phone when I'm bored. And it's kind of weird, the older I get, the shorter my attention span is, the more obnoxious my music becomes. It's supposed to be the other way around, I think. But I just developed this where, you know, if I don't get this sort of constant stimulus, then I get bored, and so I pick up my phone and I go into it and try to get that stimulus that's going to alleviate my boredom. And so the boredom is the reminder, the playing with the phone is the response, and the reward is some sort of stimulus, learning about something that's probably completely useless to me, but I've done something on my phone. So what I've been working on now is how can I replace that? So when I start to feel that kind of boredom come on, what are other things that I can do besides pick up my phone and go look at Instagram or go look at some sports blog or whatever? So I've been working on things like, well, you know, you can breathing exercises. I can get up and walk around a little bit. I could do a brain dump where I just sit down and start writing down ideas that I have in my brain. All these are things that will become a better reward and help me to be more productive and better in the day than just simply spending, you know, time, you know, liking pictures on Instagram. Okay. So habits help us to be intentional with our time without having to argue with our brains about all the other things we could be doing at the time. We can turn pretty much any kind of work, writing, reading, doing whatever, going to the gym, mowing the lawn, and all turn that into a habit. So to your takeaway, you know, think about the things that kind of habits you want to develop that would help you do the kind of big, meaningful work that you want to do in your life, whether that's in your professional life or in your personal life. Find a reminder. So this should be things that you already do during your day, or they can be triggers that you set up through alarms and calendar reminders. And then work to identify with that habit to help you succeed in doing those big projects and that big work. For bad habits, you know, identify those bad habits, understand why you engage in them and what causes you to engage in those, and then think about good habits that you could use to replace that bad habit and help you be more productive and help you to do better work. Okay? So next up are routines. And we have another little poll here. And Chris, if you could send out the poll about routines, but I just wonder how many of you make use of routines in your day? All right, so 81 of you so far have voted. So we have 58 people, wow, who say yes, that they do, 20 who sometimes, and 3 who say they don't. And so routines are really powerful, and they're a great, another way that we can be more productive in our day. They're very similar to habits. And the first way that we can use routines is we can take not all part of our day requires us to be fully there. There are some things that we can do that we kind of be on autopilot or kind of let other things take over. We can also take certain kinds of work and we can put them all together on a routine and a kind of schedule and say, I'm going to do all of this kind of work at a certain time. So an example would be email. So what we can do is, instead of constantly checking our email, looking at our email, we can say at certain times of the day, we're going to look at email and respond to email. At certain times of the day, we're going to do that sort of drudgery kind of work that we have to do, like approving timesheets or things like that, that we can do that doesn't take a lot of time out of our day, and then we can combine together and sort of get out of the way, not necessarily having to think a lot about the work that we're doing or take too much of our time from the meaningful work that we want to do. Another way we can use routines is by morning and evening routines. So routines can also be used like habits to help you kind of prime your brain for the day ahead. And morning routines can be a really great part of a productive day. They help you to focus on the big, important work that needs to be done to move you towards your goals. And evening routines are a great way to sort of put an end to the day and prepare for the next day. I can hear the groans and the eye rolls coming from y'all saying, I just don't do mornings. And everybody's just kind of turning into Garfield, and you got your plate of lasagna, I just don't do mornings. And yeah, I get it, and that's fine, but think about what you do when you wake up in the morning. Your alarm goes off, do you throw the alarm clock across the room, or you hit snooze a couple of times, or you jump out of bed all excited about the work that's ahead of you. A morning routine, like I said, kind of helps us put us in the right mindset for the day. And I wake up early. I wake up way too early, and because I like to have that time to get myself ready for the day. I can do that right after I feed my cat. She's got to be fed, and then I can go about doing myself for my day. But you don't have to get up early if you want to do a morning routine. You just have to be time to do the routine so that you're not rushed. It can be anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, depending on what you want to do. And you can also, if you think this is a little bit much, this is a little too much for you, you can also develop a morning routine and an evening routine for your office. So if you think about when you get to work and you get in your office and you have your morning commute, and think about how that makes you feel. You got some idiot who puts on their right blinker to turn left, and you get another idiot who drives like a maniac, and then all these people try to do a four-way stop, and you get all frazzled by the time you get to work. And the morning routine can help you kind of put yourself back into the right mindset to help us work and be productive during the day. So what kind of things are in a morning routine? It's really up to you what would be useful to you, but some of the things that I find useful and some of the things a lot of folks talk about when we talk about these kind of routines, one is meditation or mindfulness practice. Tim Ferriss, who has a podcast and he's written several books, he interviews high-performing individuals across all walks of society, and he recently published a book called Tools of Titans that sort of takes what the main things that these folks do to help them be successful. He found that 80% of the people in his book have some sort of mindfulness or meditation exercise that they do every day. This can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. And you don't have to be anything big or crazy. You just sit in a chair and just a couple of minutes, just some deep breaths. So you close your eyes to help you keep you focused. This is really what mindfulness is about. It's helping you to focus improve your focus throughout the day. Writing is another great thing. You can do this in many ways. You can write about the day ahead, sort of what you want to accomplish and what your focus is for the day. You can just kind of write spontaneously about what's in your head, ideas that you might have for upcoming projects. Learning in the morning is a great time to learn something. Your brain's really fresh, so you can read, you can listen to podcasts, you can watch videos, just that kind of thing to help you get you into the right mindset of going in and working and being productive. Exercise is another great thing. You don't have to go run a marathon or do 2 hours at the gym. You can just do some stretching. You could, jump on a trampoline, just something light to help kind of get the blood flowing. And there's a lot of benefits to exercise in the morning, both for mental and physical. And again, whatever else that you would think that would be useful to you. You can do all of these things in your office. You can come in and just do some stretches from having to drive for your morning commute. Sometimes some of us have very long morning commutes. You could, read an article in the morning and just do some writing, whatever it takes to help get you in that right mindset in that morning routine to start the day ahead. For the evening routine, I think the key thing is about reflection. What did you do that day? What made you feel good that day? What really helped you get you into a state of flow and made you feel happy and content? Try to do more of that stuff. What did you do that didn't really feel so good, that you struggled with? What are the reasons for that? If you just don't like doing that activity or something else going on, it helps you get insight into who you are and how you can better structure and schedule your day. And to prepare for the next day, and we'll talk a little bit about to-do lists later on, to help get you prepared so that when you come in to do the work the next day, you already have a set thing down that you want to do. You don't have to worry about that and think about that. And always, pick a time to stop working. Pick a time just for whatever, just like work or clean the dishes or whatever. Just pick a time and say, I'm not going to do any more work after this. I'm just going to kind of relax and get ready for the next day. Okay. Again, you can have these kind of routines for your home or for your office, just depending on what works best for you and what you would think would help you the most. Right? So, think about a morning routine. Is this something you want to do? I would suggest you just give it a try and see what you think and how it works out for you. Think about what are the things that you would like to do for a morning routine. And start with one thing for a short amount of time and kind of build on there. Make a decision that this is what you're going to do, and set your alarm clock, follow through with it. And remember, how you feel during the day is just it's not some sort of law of physics. You can change how you feel during a certain time of the day, or change your attitude and your outlook. That's under your control. And if all else fails, just make up your bed the first thing in the morning. That might elicit some groans as well. You start your day off with a big win by being able to make up your bed. So something that's a little more practical that kind of brings in both of these ideas of habits and routines is this focused block of time, or an FBOT. And so what this is a set time in the day where you're going to sit down and you're going to work on something, and this is all you're going to do. So you can set up a habit that at 10 a.m. or at 2 p.m. every day, you're going to, like I said, just write for an hour undisturbed. So you can set up a reminder at 1:50. It's time to get ready for your FBOT, and so that means you log on to your email, silence your phone, go to the bathroom because 10 minutes into this FBOT you're going to have to pee. So get that out of the way. You need water or coffee, get all of that. Then you sit down and you work for an hour. So you're bringing this idea of habit of getting your mind knowing that at 2 o'clock every day we write for an hour, and then the routine of being able to, routine of doing all that other stuff to prepare for that hour, so that it gets you in the right mindset and to be able to sit down and do the work that you need to do, okay? All right, so to-do list. Some of you are like, what in the world's going on? This guy is talking about jumping on trampolines in the morning and developing habits and doing all this weird stuff. So we're going to talk about to-do lists. This is some of my favorite things is our making lists, as I said earlier. And to-do lists are it's a pretty simple idea. You're going to list all the work that you have to do, when the work's due, and then you do it and you cross it off your list and you get this great sense of satisfaction. The vast majority of people get this all wrong. They have this giant sprawling list or several lists, and there's no organization to it, and you'll see take out the garbage is right next to, submit in your portfolio. I mean, there's just no kind of rhyme or reason to it, and it gets everybody, there's no order, there's no dates, and it's really not a very useful topic or useful tool. And the reason is that most people, their to-do list looks a little bit like this. So these kittens here are adorable, but they're also very difficult to corral and to get in order, and that's sometimes what happens to our to-do list. They can be very short-sighted. They often focus on the work that is right in front of us, and we get all this other stuff coming in, and it gets onto our to-do list, becomes disorganized, and we really start to lose track of those big goals and those big projects that we want to do, to move towards our goal and do that big, meaningful work, right? And don't even get me started about the people with Post-it notes. You have Post-it notes everywhere, and they fall down because the glue dried out 6 months ago. There are much better ways that we can go about doing this. Okay, so the first thing we need to figure out is what's important and what's not. And this might sound, kind of but oftentimes, again, we haven't really figured out, we have all this work and we treat it equally on our list, but they're all not equal. And so this is sometimes called an Eisenhower box. I discovered it in Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this is a box for prioritizing all of the work and all the projects that we have to do. And so if you look at this box, you'll see that the top left is what's called important and urgent. And that's the highest priority work. We also have important and not urgent, which is also high priority, and something that we need to work on every day. And often the work that's in that quadrant, important but not urgent, gets lost because there isn't an immediate due date on that. That might be something like a research project that we're working on. It might be, we're sitting about to, learn RDA or something to help you become a better cataloger, or learning about the reference collection, become a better reference librarian. These are things that don't have a definite due date we're doing to help ourselves and improve ourselves. And those things can often get lost because we get caught up in all of the work that's right there in front of us. The bottom 2 quadrants on the left is urgent and not important. And then the one on the right is not important, not urgent. If it's not important, it's not urgent, just delete it. You shouldn't be spending any time doing that. For the urgent and not important, that's something, if possible, can you delegate that work to somebody else? If not, then that's a great thing to do after you've done that important work of the day. Okay, so to start off with, take all those lists that you have, put them all together, do a brain dump where you sit down and you think of all the projects that you want to work on, all the work that you want to do, get that all listed out, and then work on prioritizing all of those projects and all of those activities. What's figure out what are the really important things, what are the things that are very meaningful to you. And then think about not just what you want to do, but why you want to do it. The why is really important. Some of the stuff is going to be a lot of work, a lot of hard work. So you have to have that important why there to help you propel you along and move you along. If that why is not there, often we don't get the work done. And then, again, prioritize that work. What can you get rid of? What can you delegate? And what is really the most important thing to you? Once we've done all of that, then as new projects come along, we can use that same box to prioritize those new projects. And then we know what work we want to take on and what we want to do and how important that is and how we should go about scheduling that work. Once we've got all of that prioritized, then we're going to get serious and we're going to get a projects list. All right? So your projects list, this is a list of all of the projects that you want to work on. And David Allen, in his book, Getting Things Done, this is a book that's a cult-like following, but this is his thing, his project list. And he divides his project list into 3 areas: current projects, waiting on a response, and future projects. I find what to me is the most helpful in this is the waiting on a response. Oftentimes, you'll ask somebody for something and you kind of forget about it, or you ask somebody to do something and you kind of forget about it, and then it's a couple of months later and you think, oh wait, what happened to that? Waiting on response helps you to keep track of things that you're waiting for, because that big project can be held up because somebody forgot to answer an email there. So take all your projects, group the like ones together. So on my project list, I actually have 3 of these grids, one for professional responsibilities, sort of my day job, one for research, and then one for service. And I have my projects listed on there. And I use Evernote for this and keeping all my projects there. For future projects, the great thing about Evernote is you can create links to other notes. So my future projects are often links to notes, so there's a lot of detail about that project and what I want to do. Another point that David Allen drives home is you don't just put a project on your list like, write an article on productivity. That's a terrible thing to have on your list because you go and you look at that, you don't know where to start. So you're often not going to start, and it's such a big thing, it's very stressful. So what you need to do is detail all of the points and all of the pieces of that project. And again, I use Evernote for my projects list, but I use a task manager, I use Trello for the pieces of my project. So I can take the Trello board and just link to that Trello board and paste it into Evernote. And I can just go there and refer to there and see what else needs to be done. What's the next step on that project? Okay. Now finally, we want to know what it is when we come in into work that day, what it is that we want to do. And this is where a daily activities first comes in. And I usually make these the night before, the evening before I leave the office. I'll write down like 2 or 3 things that I want to get done. I do more than 2 or 3 things, but these are the big, important things, and I want to make sure that I get to those first and do those first. Then after that, then I start to move on to the other things that are on my project list that are more like those, urgent and not important or important urgent things, and start to move on to there. Because really, to me, it's about energy management and understanding, the big work that I might want to do that day is to edit an article I'm working on. Well, after I get done with that, how do I feel? Do I want to go on and do more writing or editing? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I want to do something completely different. So I have this option to go on and move along on my projects list. It also helps, too, if you cram too much into a daily activities list, that can feel stressful, especially if something comes up and happens and you're not able to get through all of that list. And it kind of makes you feel defeated. But the big thing is schedule that meaningful work first. Do that first. That important but not urgent work. I'm going to do that because those are the things that are the big meaningful projects for us that move us towards our goals. So make sure you do that first. If you take anything else away from that, remember, schedule that work first and do that work first. All right. You know, a little every day, it takes you really far. You know, if you write 1 page a day, at the end of a year, you have a 365-page book. You don't need, you know, 6 hours of uninterrupted time. You just need to be able to work at it and chip away a little at a time. I find it better, and there's research to say that working in intervals helps. The Pomodoro method, where you work for a set amount of time, say 25 minutes or 45 minutes, and you take a 5 or 10 minute break, kind of let your brain recharge and clear out, and you go watch a funny cat video or something. I don't like to set a time because sometimes it can interrupt me in the middle of something, so I just wait for a natural break in the work that I'm doing, but I don't like to work for 3 or 4 hours straight. I like to break up work and take a few minutes break here or there to help me kind of refocus and come back to the work. This should go without saying, you know, but multitasking is just horrible. You know, I listen to music while I work, but I can't listen to podcasts or watch videos. I cannot jump back and forth between email, like writing something, working on something, and doing email. Nobody can. I mean, it can take up to 15 minutes to get you to refocus. So work on one thing at a time and really focus on that. If you're having trouble focusing, get up and move around. Which you know, for anybody, I don't know if anybody here has ever worked with me, but I have a really hard time sitting still. I get up and I walk around the library regularly, or sometimes I take a walk on campus, just to kind of help clear my mind and get me refocused on the work that I need to do. Another part of David Allen and his method are reviews. And there are a couple of different kinds of reviews. One is a weekly review, where you sit down, you can do this by yourself, you do it with a partner, and you ask yourself what went well and why, what did not go well and why, and what adjustments and fixes can I make to the process. You don't want to get into a bad system and a bad process. You always want to review that to make sure that you're doing the right kind of work, you have the right kind of system that helps you to be the best that you can and do the best work that you can. And sometimes you might discover that, you know, when I'm around this person, I don't do good work, or when I have this in the morning, and so you can start to kind of, you know, reschedule your day and how you want to go about doing that work that you need to do. For a monthly review, so the weekly review is very specific on what you were set out to accomplish that week and what you did. A monthly goal is like a little step back, and it's kind of looking at the bigger picture. How well are you moving towards your goals? Are you on time to meet your goals and on schedule to meet your goals? And what adjustments do you need to make just to get you back on track? And some people do a daily review. I kind of talked a little bit about that in the evening routine, but just things like, you know, what did you do that day that just the work that made you feel good, that got you into a state of flow? What kind of work did you do that didn't make you feel so good? And that kind of help you figure out what it is you want to do and where you want to go. Okay, so this all take a little bit of time to kind of get started. You put your list together, do a brain dump of projects, prioritize your projects, be honest, be brutal when it comes to what you want to do, which is how you're going to spend your time. So make sure that you're spending the time wisely. That helps you to be productive and working on projects, again, that are meaningful for you, that really do something for you, that you really get something out of. Put together a projects list, and from that, create a daily task list, and really work in a weekly and monthly review. Those things can really help you with understanding your work and understanding what you're doing that's helpful and what's not. Okay. All right. So managing digital distractions. So we have another poll here. Thank you, Chris, for sending that out. We take a second to answer that poll. And what digital distractions do you struggle with the most? All right, so it's like 75 of you have voted so far. So email, all right, social media, all of the above. So none of you are Jedi Knights. So let's talk a little bit then about how we can manage some of these digital distractions that we have. So the first thing is email. And if you're old like me, you remember when email was this really great thing. It really helped us communicate. You know, so much easier than sending around a memo or whatever. Email is great. And you can email somebody around the world in an instant. And then quickly email became this way for people to send useless messages and far too long messages and just a bunch of junk. But it's something we have to learn how to manage and deal with. The first thing is checking email. Do not check your email the first thing in the morning. You can go down that rabbit hole and lose an hour out of your day looking at email. So set aside a time, create that routine of checking your email at a certain time in the day or after you get that first big project, that first big work done of the day, then go and look at email. You know, turn off your email notifications. All these, you know, Outlook and all kinds of stuff, they vibrate and they flash lights and do all kinds of whirly things to tell you that an email has arrived. Just turn it off, because even if you don't go and check your email immediately, the flash, the whatever, the notification can distract you. And that, again, it just takes time. It takes time now to refocus back on what you're working on and what you're doing. And, you know, get rid of the junk. I mean, you need to be on all those listservs. I worked with somebody one time who had like 200 listservs. I don't know what the purpose of that is. You know, can you set up to get a daily or weekly digest where you can go look at the messages and see what's important to you and what you can read about? Do you need all those emails from vendors? I just unsubscribe from them now. I don't have anything to do with purchasing, so I'm out of all those kind of emails. That way, it's just something less that you have to do. You don't have to go in and open it up and delete it. And then one thing I want to mention is some people get a little bit worrisome about not being connected to email all the time because they're worried there's going to be something big that's going to come across in their email, some sort of emergency they have to know about right away. People are rarely notified of an emergency via email. If something does happen that's you know, some sort of tragedy or something that needs your immediate attention, somebody's going to call you or come and talk to you face to face. So you don't necessarily need. You're not going to get that kind of information from email, so that's one less thing to worry about. I think a lot of people get a little bit nervous about that. Another thing, this is again from David Allen, is the 2-minute rule, and that is when you read an email message and you say, does this message require me to take action? If the answer is no, then ask, do I need to know this information for later? The answer to that is yes, then move that on into its particular folder so you can go and look back when you need that information. If you don't need the information in the email, delete it or put it into your archive. If you do need to take action on the email, if it's going to take less than 2 minutes to do, then just go ahead and do it. If it's going to take more than 2 minutes, then put that onto your projects list and then move that email over into its appropriate folder. This will help you, again, not to get lost in a time slot of replying to all these long emails. Also helps you keep your email inbox organized, make use of all of those folders. All right, so digital distractions. Things like Netflix and Twitter and Facebook, and just going and looking at blogs and all this sort of stuff. And it's gotten to the point where this product called the Hemming, I don't know if you're familiar with this, is a Kickstarter project that was sold out numerous times. It was quickly funded. It's about a $400 piece of machinery, and all it is a portable word processor. So you spend $400 to go back in time for 20, 25 years of the technology, but there's nothing else you can do on this. There's no internet or email or anything like that. So this is how bad we've gotten with digital distractions. And so I'm going to talk a little bit. I know we're a little bit short on time, but some things that we can do to help manage those digital distractions. One are browser blockers, and I use Chrome, and you can find these in other browsers as well. But Chrome has several extensions. One that I use is called Self-Control. And you just enter in a base URL like Twitter.com or Facebook.com or ESPN.com, and then you turn it on, you set a timer, 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, and anytime you try to go to a site that has that URL in it, it's going to block you. This big orange screen comes up and it says, stay focused. So you can't actually get to that site. Self-control is the one I use. Another one is called Stay Focused. Momentum is another Chrome extension where every time you open a new tab, a page opens up where you can, in the morning, you enter what your daily focus is and what your to-do list is. And so every time you open a tab, that's there to remind you that you should be doing this big important work and not going and looking at, sports scores. Another thing is a secondary login. This is your work machine. You've talked to your IT about it, but you put this up on your home machine, which is another login, another profile where you can log in, and it only has the stuff that you need to do the work that's important to you. It doesn't have, you can set it up to not have email or browsers or whatever. If your big important project is writing, you just have Microsoft Word there or whatever Word program you use for a Mac, and that's there. So you can log in and just have that uninterrupted time. It's like a Hemingwrite, but for free, you already have the machine there. For phone apps, you're not too many. I don't think any of you should have a problem with phone apps. This is something that I do get distracted with, as I said, with my phone. So your phone has multiple screens on it. You can scroll right or left. On the home screen, put the apps that you need, like Evernote or Trello or Dropbox, and on a secondary screen, have those other apps, news apps, social media. Might not seem like a big deal to have to swipe to another screen, but it's just that much extra work to get you there, and it's that much extra time you can start to think, well, it's just really what I should be spending my time on doing. Again, turn off your phone notifications. You don't need all these apps popping up and telling you new stuff has happened or whatever. You can also, for important numbers, schools, kids' schools, partners, spouses numbers, all that, you can set to a special ringtone or vibrate patterns so that you know that's that person calling, so that's important for you to get, and then otherwise you can ignore those other ones. You can also develop a routine of internet browsing. So you say for a limited time, at a certain time, I'm going to go and look at some sites or whatever, and then at the end of that time, you get back and doing the work that you need to be doing. All right. So one last poll on being a pro. So, all of the shortcuts that you have and all the whatever's, hacks, life hacks and all that, you still have to show up and do the work. So how many of you are stopped from doing meaningful work by that voice in your head that might tell you that the work's not good enough, or you're not ready to do that work? You just take a minute to answer the poll here. Okay. All right. So it looks like a lot of you have that voice. I know I definitely have that voice in my head. And Stephen Pressfield, who is an author, he didn't publish his first novel until he was 50 years old, and there was A Legend of Bagger Vance, which was then that year, it was published, was made into a movie with Will Smith and Matt Damon. Huge success. But he developed this idea of being a professional and saying that professional needs to show up for work every day. You do the work that you need to do. You go into a deep level on the work. But even a professional has that voice that comes up in your head that tries to get them to not do the work. And they call that the resistance. And I want to show you some examples of some resistance. And I know we only have a few minutes left. I didn't realize this was going to take this long. The one is the excuse of time. People will often say, well, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll start on Monday, I'll start the first of the month. Start right now. Don't wait. You have the feeling you're motivated. It's just a little something you need to do on that project or that work. Do it now. A lot of people will say they're too busy to do the work. You're probably not too busy, but what you need to do is figure out how you spend your time in a day. If you really do think, I don't know where I can fit this kind of work in, or if you think, I spent all day at work and I got next to nothing done, sit down and keep track of your time. You do that with a pen and a piece of paper. You just write down when you got to work, when you left work, and all the things that you did You check email from, 9:15 to 9:37. You went on Facebook, you did this, you did that, you had a meeting, all of these things. You can also use there's a tool called Toggle, which is T-O-G-G-L, which is an app you can put on your phone and also a tool you can download onto your desktop, which will keep track of time for you. You can just enter something and hit start, and keep track of how much time you spent on doing that. Another piece is this joy of defeat, that some people, they don't want to start anything big and meaningful and important because they're afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of that. When things don't work out the way we want them to, that's how we learn. And you're never going to learn anything unless you try something. So don't be that kind of person that sits back and plays a martyr, that I have this genius inside of me. It's never going to come out because the conditions aren't perfect. Do the work, find ways around the obstacles, and learn from your mistakes and learn from your shortcomings. Don't just fall into the trap of doing the easy things that you always do. Really challenge yourself and stretch yourself, and try something new and see how much you can develop yourself, and really what you're capable of. And again, the excuse of perception that I'm not the kind of person who does this, or I'm not the kind of person who does that. Change that perception about yourself and say, I am the kind of person who does this really big, meaningful work. I am the kind of person who does this kind of work over here. And just silence that resistance. Remember, the resistance, that voice is a liar. Don't listen to it. So, again, we talked about habits. I'm going to quickly go through this, making routines of work, how we can do our to-do list, and managing digital distractions. Show up every day, right? Make results, not excuses. And again, take what works for you and leave the rest behind. You can pick the most important thing to start on and work on that and get little wins and build up success. Or you can pick the easiest thing to start on and do that and build on that one and build on that success. Whatever you choose to do it, finish it. And remember, if you improve 1% every day for a year, by the end of the year, you're 37 times better at that particular skill, habit, project, whatever, than you were to start the year. So we have some program handouts, and we also, so the top link there is for a handout with links to all the things that we talked about. The second one is for a little assessment. If you could take a few minutes just to fill that out. And we are out of time. I apologize. I thought this would be a little bit shorter than what it was. But thank you for attending. I know there were some questions that came through. If you want to email me with any of your questions, feel free. It's my email. I will put it in the chat box. And oops, did that go through? I think I did send. And why is this not working? We'll try one more time. And also there's going to be a recording that I'll send out. If you're interested in the recording, let me know as well, and I can send it to you. So thank you so very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I apologize for going a little bit long. We should have been more time for questions here, but thank you very much, and I hope you attend more ULS Professional Development Committee online programs like this. Thank you.